Tim Cook, I'm coming for you.
Hello and welcome to This Is Austin. You're not Austin. All right, here's the deal. Kinsey said the other day something that left us aghast. Kinsey, tell me what you said before.
That I've never used an iPhone.
What? Nah, who cares? Kinsey's pretty anti-iPhone. She'll see someone with an iPhone, smack it out of someone's hand, and be like, listen here, you iPony phony. I think you're dumb. And how can you say that if you've never used an iPhone?
You're making us sound like our commenters.
Yeah. So we've issued a challenge to Kinsey. What's that? What is that challenge, Kinsey?
Matt is very pro iPhone, and so I'm like, maybe I should see what it's all about.
And we're gonna have Kinsey try out an iPhone for about 2 weeks. I want an Android user who has not tested an iPhone ever to be like, okay, I want to hear your honest opinion on it.
Yeah, I think I used to be a little more unfairly Apple before I started working here, but I'm like, okay, now I'm seeing this stuff on the ground and it looks decent. I like the camera because I take a lot of pictures of Hildy. Hildy is my cat. She is precious and adorable, and she deserves the best photos. We're
gonna give her an iPhone to use. We're gonna cut to 2 weeks later after using it. iSheep. We got a new one. So we gave Kinsey a 13 Pro to use. We could have given an up-to-date one, but we didn't want to deal with the eSIM bullshit.
After I used it for 1 week, I noticed some changes. I started taking pictures of my food. I started eating my breakfast out of a little teacup. I'm getting a live, laugh, love sign in my apartment. And, I went down to Verizon and I committed to...
What?
The S24 Ultra.
Okay.
I really love the S Pen and I love the gigantic screen, and I love the Ultra series, and it's purple.
We give you a phone, you say, scoff. You always get mad, like, justice for Kinsey, justice for Matt. This is the way Kinsey treats me.
I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I used it for 2 weeks.
This video is brought to you by Squarespace.
In a world of generic social media profiles, it is time to stand out. You can show off how legitimate and serious your brand is with a gorgeous website from Squarespace.
Whether you're a content creator, a small business owner, or you just want to build your custom interactive shrine to Star Trek like me, Squarespace has got you covered.
With hundreds of flexible templates, it's easy to find something that will fit your specific needs and make it work for you. And you don't need to be an IT wizard either, because Squarespace's fluid engine drag and drop interface makes it easy to create exactly what you need.
We even made a little page for This Is. With Squarespace super simple built-in store, we could sell tons of Kyle hats, hypothetically, of course, because we don't actually have merch. But you could sell your merch, content, or even your time for real.
Check out squarespace.com/thisis to get your free 14-day trial and 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And thank you very much to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode of This Is.
Before we get into, what do you look for in a phone?
I think one of the first things I didn't realize I looked for in a phone, I want it to be able to look how I want. There's a feature that I thought was standard on all phones in the year of our Lord, 2024. I like to put artwork that my friends have done of my favorite characters as my lock screen. And I like to arrange my icons around that so I can view it nicely. 11 years, and I did not know that you cannot choose where the icons go. So when I looked it up, I was like, surely this is just a feature that I can just turn off. Be like, oh, turn off auto snap. No.
Tim Cook knows better than you.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
No, but this is funny because I looked it up and I was like, okay, so that's not a setting you can turn off. And there is a workaround. The iBesties are doing dark magic. You take a picture of your background and you put it into this app, and it makes a little slide puzzle for placeholder icons for the places where you don't want icons to go. And I think that is unhinged, insane, very unserious device. Timmy Cook has a death grip on my fingers and they're snapping.
I started iPhone mainly because that was the only thing that was available at the time. Like I started back in the iPhone 2G. So when my iPhone 4 broke, I had to switch over to Android. It was really tough at the time because like it didn't have things like iTunes. But then I'm like, oh man, I could do all these other things I couldn't do on the iPhone. That's when I started putting like emulators on my phone. And when I started working here, I had a really bad taste in my mouth because I had just got over the Note 7. I had burned my upgrade buying a Note 7, and then they're like, oh yeah, we realize you can't upgrade anymore. So here's a J3. This is the same thing as a Note 7, right? And I was so mad at them. When I started working here, Austin's like, hey, we use mostly like iPhones around here. Do you want to try one? I'm like, all right, sure, whatever, like blah, blah. And I switched over. I'm not here to tell you like iPhone's better than Android. That's not what I'm here to tell. I feel like that's what Kinsey's here to tell you is that Android's better than iPhone. That's because she decided to choose violence today. Everything that you're going to rant about, I just realized I didn't care about. I no longer cared about putting an emulator on my phone.
I'm considering going back to it because I was talking to someone who was saying like, how is it that if I want to play Tetris on my phone, if I try to download an app, anything I do is going to just be like garbage microtransactions and ads constantly. And I'm like, if you downloaded like a Game Boy Color emulator, you would play Tetris bullshit free. I think honestly, Snapchat in particular was partially responsible for the bad reputation. That was my generation's green bubbles.
In those cold Seattle winters, there was nothing better to warm my hands than just opening Snapchat on my phone.
Can I talk about one way that it's not the same? A real feature that multiple people care about, and it is the back button. It is always there. You can always use it to go back to the last screen or get rid of the keyboard. On iPhone, it is in different places. Sometimes it's up in the top left, sometimes top right. Sometimes you have to figure out which way to swipe to make that happen. What I found out from this experience of 2 weeks is I do not like gesture stuff. I just want to tap the little back button in the corner to make my keyboard get out of my face. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Whenever I use an Android phone, I actually hide it because like I'm like I actually don't like that. I prefer gestures. I'm gonna bring this around to why I personally like iPhone. I don't think I've ever changed the wallpaper of an iPhone. Not because I think it's like, oh, this is so gorgeous. This is like, thank you, Tim Cook. I just do not care. Everything that you said you wish you could do is stuff I'm like, I'm glad that I don't have to do this.
Can we talk about copying things over? And let me tell you, it sucks because, and I realize why it sucks, and it's because Apple doesn't have any incentive for it to not suck. Oh my God, it took 3 or 4 hours. It didn't copy any apps, it just lied to me. It copied my contacts eventually. It copied my photos, but it copied some of them like a dozen times.
Going from iPhone to iPhone is about as seamless as it gets. The only thing I have to sign into when I transfer new phones is like banking apps, which is understandable. Yeah. Let's talk about cameras.
Okay, so I was happy. I was very happy with the cameras on this. They're nice. The one thing that stood out to me, I didn't understand it at first because it kind of just does it, was live photos. I got used to it and I enjoy it because it lets me make GIFs of my cat. You talked about how you don't want to do anything. There should be like the option behind a menu so grandma doesn't accidentally do it. Because I was like, you know what? I'm committing to this. I'm gonna put my alarm to wake up on here. And I discovered some interesting things. I never thought alarms could be interesting. But the first thing it does is it goes, you want an alarm to wake up? Go to the health app. And I'm like, okay. Do you want to wake up at 7:30? I'm gonna set you a go to bed alarm at 11:30. And I'm like, are you my mom? My mom is so much cooler than you, sorry.
So like, that's not mandatory at all.
It's not mandatory, but the fact that it walks me through all this, it told me to go through the health app and I was like, okay, this is so many features that I didn't care about. So when I wake up in the morning, I hit snooze and I'm like, oh, 9 minutes. That feels pretty decadent and you can't change it if you wanted it to be shorter. And I get that like, okay, this originates from it being like the gears of clocks and stuff, but like, we don't have gears. I had seen all of these memes of like iPhone users setting like 50 alarms and I'm like, why would anyone do that? And I'm like, well, if you wanted less than 9 minutes of snooze or any other amount, then you have to do that. On Android, it was 5 minutes. I actually can't change it. Now I'm mad at you, Tim. You tell me how to sleep. You tell me how to arrange my icons. What else are you gonna tell me how to do?
One thing too, I'll never let Apple get away with this, is that the snooze button for an alarm is on the right side and the reset button for a timer is on the left side.
I have one more big thing, and it is the keyboard situation. I am a Swift key evangelist. I used the iPhone keyboard and I hate it so much. When you type a word it doesn't know, it puts it in quotation marks. Like, is this what you wanted to say? It is so patronizing. I have to go to another screen for symbols like some kind of fucking caveman. I don't look at my screen a lot of the times when I'm typing. That's how like in it I am. Wow, nice ecosystem. I get iMessage on the MacBook. That's really cool until you try to type a word that it doesn't know and it implements its garbage autocorrect onto messages I typed with my physical keyboard. And I'm like, what?
I feel like a lot of this is just 2 weeks is not quite enough to get change like an entire ecosystem. All of these things I had the same problem with, and I'm not calling this a skill issue. I have similar complaints if I go to Android of like, oh, I don't like the way this does this and this does this. But like, you just get used to these things. The words that like it doesn't know, it learns them.
Also, one thing I love about this phone is the mute switch. It is clicks in such a nice way.
Don't remind me.
They got rid of it.
Don't remind me on that.
You know who has a clicky for still forever?
What's the point of this video? It's to show that there's nuance.
Yeah. Every
And-
person wants a different thing out of their phone. I was really curious of if this ecosystem has what I want. 11 years ago, I thought it probably doesn't have what I want because I object to all of these kind of decisions. And it turns out a lot of that stuff still is kind of a thing. But there's a lot of cool things. I used Face ID despite I don't use biometrics on anything else, but I used it because I wanted to give it the shot. Very convenient, if not incredibly creepy. I don't like that it works when the lights are off. The bones are there, and there's a lot of things too where I'm like, wow, I would really like this feature if I cared about this. One thing I really liked, actually, the one time I am like, yes, let Timmy Cook decide things for me. The weather widget is really cool. It was raining a lot while I was using this phone, and it would show me it's gonna be raining for 30 more minutes about, and I'm like, that's awesome. And I also like that the timer shows on the lock screen because that's really good for cooking.
Let us know what you think about Kinsey's iPhone adventure. Like, follow, subscribe, and if you catch us the next time, I will be using this specific iPhone for 2 weeks now. This is mine now.
All right.
You see what I deal with now on a daily basis?
It's on my phone.